Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's the CJ. I want to welcome you guys back to episode 18 of the 120 gallon reef. Now we're going to pick up right where we left off a little over a month ago when the tank was just in bad shape, guys. I had algae issues all over the tank as far as the Pukani rock, had ick, killing my fish. Just things were not looking up for the reef. So as I promised you guys, I was going to take a step back, let things settle out, not add anything else, not change anything else, and hopefully get this tank back into shape. So that's pretty much where we are today. This video is following a 7-day blackout on the tank. That was going to be the easiest solution that I could think of to allow me to get rid of the algae without having to add chemicals or dose or do anything else that would potentially, cost more money, or even worse, have side effects that I could not predict. So for those wondering, what you can do to get rid of algae, does a blackout work? These are the results. And here we go. I gotta admit to you guys, I was a little skeptical about this blackout thing. Is it worth the time? Is the algae just gonna come right back? Blah, blah, blah. So I finally went ahead and tried it. And I'll tell you, I am so glad I did. I clicked these lights on, I was amazed at just how much of that, lush green algae that I've been battling for the last few months had completely disappeared. Nowhere to be found. Whatever was left was grayed out or getting ready to fall off the rock. So that's why I went ahead and, did one more brush over just to get those pieces off and started to rehab my tank. Get it back in top form, get it back to the way it was looking before all the mayhem started and I really kind of took a step back from the system. Now, one thing I was not going to do was make the same mistake I made for the last few months. It was time to do a water change. Whatever algae was knocked off, I made sure that I replaced my filter floss to, catch and remove it, and then everything else I siphoned out. So I did roughly a 50-gallon water change, took my time, siphoned the entire sand bed twice to remove any and other, dust or debris or detritus or whatever else was left in the system to go ahead and really give it, the definition of a fresh start. Now, when it comes to the filtration underneath the tank, honestly, guys, everything's still exactly the same. I'm still running this SCA 302 Protien Skimmer, which by all accounts is doing a fantastic job. Now that I've finally got this thing tuned to where it's dry skimming, that dark, thick, nasty skimmate that you're looking for, pulling the maximum gunk and the least amount of water, which also means I only have to empty this thing maybe once every 10 days to 2 weeks, so definitely no complaints. Now, the next piece of equipment we're going to cover is going to be my Rain 2 algae scrubber. Now, this is made by Santa Monica Filtrations. I've already done multiple videos unboxing, showing how to install it, and even answering questions as far as what happens the first few months of owning one. So go back and check those out if you missed them. But for anyone new to my channel and new to this video, just keep in mind, this is my refugium for my reef tank. I rely on the skimmer and this algae scrubber to work in tandem to remove and export any of the organics, nitrates, phosphates, and anything else I want to remove from my system has to happen between these two pieces of equipment. So with that being said, when one stops working, the display tank normally shows the negative effects of that. So that's what we're going to talk about. But before we move to that part, for those wondering, why do this instead of a refugium or whatever the case may be, I like the idea of a self-contained, self-enclosed piece of equipment that's easy to service, meaning I can keep this thing lit 24/7. It doesn't bleed light over into my entire sump and grow algae everywhere, and makes it all grow in one nice, neat, contained space to where I can easily remove, easily service, and, put right back into place. So for any of you all that were curious, this is what it looks like when you harvest your algae scrubber. This is roughly a week or so worth of growth, and by all accounts, it's probably the most algae that I've ever harvested from this thing over the 6 months I've used it. So, everything's all good, right? Well, it makes you ask the question, I can hear it now. CJ, if you're harvesting this much algae, how did you have algae issues in your display? And that is a question that I've been banging my head on the wall for the last few months trying to figure out. So let me give you a little history of the situation and then give you my thoughts on why this may have happened. So a few months ago, I was doing my final preparations for adding Coris to the tank, and I was lucky enough to have a local Reef Club member come by with his par meter and help me adjust the lights. We ended up turning them up from around 10% intensity all the way to 100% blue, 35% white. Now that ended up being the perfect spectrum and also, the perfect par readings for a mixed reef tank like I was planning on doing in the system. So, by all accounts, everything was all good, right? Wrong. There's a few things I didn't consider, and I'm hoping that anyone else will consider these before you do what I did. The first one was this. The algae scrubber at that point was 24/7. It was cranking algae, and it was pretty much, sucking up anything before the display could grow any algae. So I had minimal to no algae issues in my display. Once I increased the lighting, two things happened. The first thing is my display exploded with algae. And the second thing, my display completely starved and outcompeted my algae scrubber. So it went from harvesting the algae every week to no algae growth for a month or so. Totally different story, and that's pretty much what led to what's happening now. So how did I get the algae scrubber working again? Well, the answer is very simple. I just reversed everything that made it stop working. Meaning, I slowly decreased the intensity over the last few weeks from 100% all the way down to 10%. And I also decreased the photo period from 12 hours to 4 hours to eventually doing the 1 week blackout, which I just shared with you guys. So, over that entire 2.5, 3 week span, I noticed a huge increase of growth in the algae scrubber and less growth in the display. So in a nutshell, I just basically rebalanced the equation in my favor and made it all grow down below the tank instead of in the tank. Now while we're down here, last two parts of the filtration I'm going to share with you guys are going to be the mechanical and the biological. Now you guys may have watched me replace that filter pad, which is pretty straightforward. One thing I will caution, if you're not going to rinse the pad off, be prepared to take your skimmer cup off and just let the thing foam over like crazy until it works itself out. Trust me, you can't stop it from happening otherwise. And when it comes to the Seachems Pond matrix, I planned on this being a refugium, copepod kind of, breeding area, and it's worked perfectly. I stirred this up before the video, and I've seen tons of copepods, amphipods, the big ones, the small ones, all of those guys having a field day down here in this pond matrix. So, mission is working just as planned, and I'm really happy that part's working out. So let's take a quick look at the final results, guys. Here goes the display. 1 day later after a 50-gallon water change, sand bed siphon, 7-day blackout, and the tank has never looked better. Tank is completely algae free, water's crystal clear, fish look happy and healthy. Everything is looking like I wanted it to look a few months ago. So, after you go through looking at your tank ugly for the last 2 months, you really appreciate the good days just that much more. But with that being said, I didn't go into this naive, guys. When I first cycled this tank with that nasty, dirty Pukani rock, I expected to have algae issues for the first 6 to 9 months. So, I just knew I was going to have to persevere and fight through it. But what I didn't know was ways I may have avoided it, or a few things I could have done to help myself along the way. So that's what we're going to talk about, because it's one thing to show progress and making it through something, but it's another thing to also share ways that people could avoid repeating the same pain and headache that you experience. So, with all that being said, I'm still not out of the woods yet, guys. I still haven't seen what happens to the tank when I turn the lights back up. I still haven't seen when I add coral. I still haven't seen when I add more fish again. There's still a lot more questions and answers at this point. But what I'm saying is right now, today, I'm feeling good about the tank, and I'm feeling good about the direction it's going in. If I can go back in time, there are a few things I would actually change, guys. And the most important is going to be managing the water quality during the cycle of the tank. I started off with all the dirty Pukani rock, threw it right into the display, didn't rinse it, didn't acid bathe it. I ran bare bottom, threw a bunch of power heads in here, and it cycled. I didn't have to add ammonia, didn't have to do anything. The decaying matter cycled the tank just like I thought it would. The mistake I made was relying too heavily on the algae scrubber and the skimmer to remove the available nutrients that were leaching from the rock. I missed a huge opportunity of exporting those things with water changes. So first and foremost, with all things being equal and the same, the only thing I would have done different was done huge water changes throughout the cycling process. Now, the better way of doing it and the more efficient way would have been doing this in a brute can. A smaller volume of water, Just something just big enough to fit my scape in, even after it was cemented together. Doing water changes that way, blacked out, would have helped as well. But either way, I think it's all the same paths to the road to success. It's just the one I took this way ended up being a little more of a headache. So, for anyone that's dealing with Pukani, I'm not going to turn you off from it because the Pukani rock looks fantastic. But what I will say is be cautious with lights and be cautious with managing your water quality during your curing process. Now, when it comes to algae in my display, not only was it unsightly on my rock, it was also unsightly on my power heads. Now, this is after I've taken some time and completely disassembled these gyres and cleaned them out, but I'm telling you, the flow was restricted big time, and they look terrible. It looks like they were just blowing pieces of hair. It just didn't work out. So, it's kind of remind people, whenever you're dealing with huge changes in your display, you're cleaning it, you're doing huge maintenance, don't forget about your power heads, don't forget about your wave makers, don't forget about your gyres, and don't forget about the flow in your tank and how it could be affected by those things. So it's kind of an FYI, but all the flow's good now. I have an abundance of flow with these two Gyre 230s on my system, so I'm definitely ready to rock and roll. So what's next for the channel? When I'm going to be adding more fish, when I'm going to be adding coral, and what happened to the comments? I'm sure those are 3 questions you guys want the answers to, so let me try to answer them really quick before we get out of here. First and foremost, regarding the comments, my entire time on YouTube, I pride myself in being open and honest and truthful with my experiences. I've done a lot of dumb things. I've lost a lot of fish, a lot of livestock. I've lost things, but I've had successes. For better or worse, I've always prided myself in just being open and honest with documenting my journey. It wasn't up until a certain point, I guess, when I hit a certain amount of subscribers or when I got this 120-gallon tank, to where I got an overwhelmingly, negative comment section of trolls and people want to gut punch, and experts, the people that quote unquote have never lost a fish, have never made a mistake, whatever the case may be. I decided moving forward, for me to be able to continue and stay positive and be open and honest, to go ahead and cut those people off. Now, unfortunately, cutting the comments off cut off a lot of the great people on YouTube that were always giving positive feedback and things like that. So you guys are appreciated. This shot was not meant for you all, so just understand that. But you are more than welcome to private message me, and whether it's on YouTube or email me, cjsaquariums@gmail.com. Be more than happy to communicate with those people that way. But moving forward, no more comments. Now, when it comes to livestock, over the last couple of months, actually a little over 2 months, I haven't lost a fish. Everyone's been eating happy and healthy, no rapid breathing, no white spots, no signs of any real true problems in the system are left at this point. So, if it was ick, it's either dormant or these fish are not stressed enough to where it's going to bother them. If it was flukes or brook or whatever other diseases, I haven't seen any signs of anything left. So at this point, I'm feeling more comfortable with adding more fish. Now, at the end of the day, I do want to end up with, my tangs in here again. I want 3 tangs. So I got my powder blue. I'll add 2 more tangs, and I'll add some clownfish and some kind of sand sifter. And I think that'll pretty much be it. I'm not going to go crazy as I originally planned on my stock list, for the simple fact I just don't want to lose a huge amount of money if something does go bad again. So for those wondering, am I going to remove these fish to quarantine? The answer is no. I'm just not. It's going to be impossible to catch all these fish. I'm telling you now, the wrasses are pretty much impossible to catch as well. So I'm going to have to just roll with it. So keep a low stress, high water quality environment, and just let these fish's immune system fight off whatever's left in the system. So for those curious about what fish are left, you're looking at a powder blue, a yellow and green Coris wrasse, a bluehead wrasse, a Paddlefin Wrasse, a flame angel, a Melanaris wrasse, and I believe that's all that's left unless I forgot one. So for the most part, very, very wrasse heavy, but I still will be adding more fish in the future, that's for sure. Now, before I go too crazy with corals, there are a few other things I got to make sure I get sorted out. And the first one is going to be replenishing my cleanup crew, hopefully with things that the wrasses will not murder, including invertebrates, cleaner shrimps, pistol shrimps, coral banded shrimps, fire shrimps. I would love to add more shrimp to the tank, more things that can actually get in between the crevices of the rock and help remove food. Last thing I want to do, like I said, is pack this tank with corals and not have everything else sorted out first. So, once that's done, then I'll start jumping right into corals. I'll be adding some LPS corals first, soft corals first, and then I'll eventually start going more into SPS. So for the time being, everything's rolling, everything's back on track, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this update on the 120 gallon reef. I know I've been very, very busy here lately. You guys haven't really seen many updates, and it's probably going to be the same for the next month or so. But as soon as the weather gets cold, football season's over, I'm going to start cranking these updates out like I used to. So other than that, hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, you guys can like, comment, subscribe. You guys keep doing what y'all do. Y'all be easy and happy reefing.